biggest things they showed was Starfield. Of course, we finally got some. I don't know if we'd seen gameplay, but I feel like I really grokked the gameplay for the first time this time. And I thought that the shooting actually looked pretty good. If it feels as good as it looks, I feel like this could be one of my favorite Bethesda games. So I guess we'll see.
We'll see. It did look very. My first impression was, oh, this is Fallout in space. Like that was.
I mean,
really, I think the Fallout shooting is so bad, though.
It is.
It is bad, but
this looked way more like
it could still be bad. You don't know that, right? Like
true.
I would say we don't know that.
That's what I'm saying. If it feels as good as it looks,
I'm with you though. It did look better.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Because
right. My initial thing was like, okay, I like the very like NASA punk thing they're going for, right?
Yeah.
Like aesthetically.
Right.
One of my complaints, I think, is that it just looks so like drab and colorless.
Honestly, I think the mistake was showing the planet that they showed. Like it was the first. They're like, here's the first gameplay, and everything is gray.
Yeah. Even later on, when they're showing like the montage of planets, and they're like, we're going to the head, whatever base of the people, and they're talking, I was like, man, everything just looks so like colorless and kind of boring.
Yeah,
like, to look at, right? But
I was kind of impressed when they walked into that like office where that lady was waiting for them, and I was like, oh wow, this looks pretty good.
Well, yeah, I'm not like the detail and stuff looks great. Like everything looks great. It's just it almost like. It reminds me of like when the 360 came out and everything was like brown and dirty and had this just like sepia filter over everything, sort of, right? It to me it's like they got blue-gray and they filtered it over the whole thing, and I'm just like,
it's No Man's Sky without the pop.
Yeah, well, I mean, No Man's Sky has a little bit of a cartoony edge to it anyway.
Yeah.
And I realize they're trying to go like slightly more realistic with this, but that's fine. But also like colors exist in nature, right? So
yeah,
I just like there was one shot where they're on like a planet that had like palm trees or something. I was like, oh my god, color! And then they went away from it, and it was like after that I was like, man, everything just looks so like drab and like lifeless. It's kind of like I don't know. It's not awful, but to me, I was like, man, I'm not into this aspect of it. I would say.
Honestly, it reminded me. The more I think about it, the more it reminds me of like Outer Worlds, and it's like Outer Worlds meets Fallout, just in that like lived-in space. At least some of the locales that we had.
Some of them, like the like city kind of scapes they showed with all the neon and stuff.
Well, they had that. Well, that was more cyberpunk, and then they had one that was more. It was just like a dirt road, but you were in a town. And everything was just like kind of metal and beat up. I mean, I was gonna say the space battles look kind of cool. I don't know how much of that you're gonna end up doing.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I think like I don't know. My whole thing with this game is like it's the same thing with every like I don't typically play Bethesda games for very long. I think Fallout 4 was probably the most I played one. And
wow.
I know. Well, I watched people play Skyrim for like literally an entire semester, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
I think the only Bethesda games I played the isometric tactics game, which I think was Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. It came out, or I played it around like 2001, or something like that. Like I played that, and then I played Skyrim. I bounced the hell off of Elder Scrolls 4, and then played a ton of Skyrim, and I think I 100%ed Fallout 4 on Xbox. But yeah, those are the only ones that I've really gotten into.
Yeah. Oblivion I was really into. I played probably close to 100 hours in that. Skyrim probably 50 to 100 hours in.
Wow.
And beat it. And then Fallout 3 I put a significant amount of time into. I was like obsessed with that game. Fallout 4 not so much. But I did enjoy Fallout 3 like a lot.
I just feel like a lot of the like these games, or this game specifically, because I feel the same way about No Man's Sky. Like, it's so big that I get to a point where I get overwhelmed that I'm just like, I don't even know how I could begin to try to play this and not like it just feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's just like you get into this thing and it's like it's as long as you want it to be.
It's like, well, what if I want it to be 5 hours long
Right.
and a
I
very
mean,
focused experience?
the nice thing about at least like the Skyrim games is, well, Fallout games too, is like they have these subplot campaigns that you can do. Like you could just be like, I just want to play Skyrim and I just want to do the whole Dark Brotherhood story from beginning to end, which will take maybe like 4 or 5 hours. And you're like, then I don't want to play ever again. You could totally do that, or you can do the whole like main plot, which I actually think the main plot in Skyrim is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then yeah, there's all the other, like you could be Master of Hogwarts and all that, you know.
Master Hogwarts.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, Starfield, I am glad I saw that your character doesn't talk, which I'm actually really thankful for, because it seemed cool at the time when we were getting Fallout 4, but then when you get it, you're like, oh, but it like super limits like how you can engage, because they have to voice all of these lines, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you play like New Vegas or something, you could have like 8 different responses that all do all kinds of stuff. But in Fallout 4, it was like you get 3, and they have to be like really specific, and like,
And you
it
can
just
almost never
doesn't-
find a response that actually fits what you want to do.
Yeah, it was harder to like role play, you know, in that setting and stuff. I also was a little annoyed that like if you played a female character, like you weren't the war veteran in the household of like your, you know, your spouses and all that. That was like really weird and
We standing up,
strange
Chris?
choice.
All right.
I think it was I think they did that because like I assume it takes place. I think it takes place after World War II, right? And like that's
It's
what they're
way in the future.
in Fallout 4.
Dude, yes, because the Fallout timeline is like it skews after World War II is when it breaks off, but it's like hundreds of years. Like even I think past like before the nukes drop, it's like decades later.
Oh shit!
It's way later.
It's been a while.
Like, yeah, like there's a whole like American Canadian War and stuff that have. There's like Fallout lore is super deep and long, but yeah, like the year is like
And long.
2090 something. I don't know. It was just this, it's a strange choice, but also like the voicing thing is very it kind of limits you. So I was happy to hear that Starfield doesn't have that. It's going to be just very like role play, because that is one of the aspects of these like Bethesda games that I think is what works best for them, is that you can sort of just like play kind of how you want and be like, I'm gonna be like the master thief in Skyrim, or I'm gonna be just straight up Brotherhood of Steel guy in Fallout, you know, and I'm gonna stick to that like no matter what, or just
I'm gonna crouch in this corner for 8 hours and
I'm gonna be all the above,
guy.
you know, like and that's cool. But yeah, I would say my one complaint of Starfield, just looking at it, was like it just looks kind of boring. Not aesthetically, I guess a little aesthetically, but not like the actual like shape and style of things, because I do like the like very NASA punk thing they're going for. I think it's neat. And nobody really does that. They always want to do these like they try to take stuff from like Star Wars and Star Trek and like want these super futuristic like things, you know, like Battlestar Galactica fighters. And this game's kind of like, no, we want like things that look like space shuttles, but you know what they might look like 300 years in the future. And people wear like big space suits with helmets and stuff. It's like, yes, that's cool.
What if now, but more?
Yeah.
Yes. It's just the like the lack of color, and it's just kind of like not super interesting to me to look at, is maybe my one complaint. Like, and then the other thing that was like slightly like a red flag, but not like a total red flag to me, was at the end when they're like, oh, there's hundreds of systems and 1,000 more planets. And I'm like, okay, but like, how many of those are handcrafted areas? Because
how many of those did you make,
and
how many of those did your AI friend make for you?
I bet the AI made the vast majority of them, and then I think they probably went in and tweaked areas that they want you to go to, right? But the idea that like there's going to be 1,000 maps and they're all going to be interesting, and they're like you can land anywhere on any of these planets, it's like it's probably not going to be that interesting. Like just the grand scale that like doesn't make it more interesting. Like if it is, then great. If they've populated this galaxy with tons of shit to explore and do, awesome. But every time I've seen people try to do that, it just never quite works right. Like, or it never quite feels right, or it's like not as rewarding. So we'll see. But
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing
that part
about
was
it
a little
is
bit
it's
of a
on.
flag
It'll
to
be
me.
on Game Pass. Like, and
Yes,
we'll all be
it will
able
be
to
on
try
Game
it.
Pass. I did like the ship customization aspect of it. I was like, that's neat. I liked that.
I was like, this is gonna be a pain in the dick on controller. This is gonna be like this.
There's
is
going to be a
right?
lot
Yeah.
of that in this game, I think,
Yeah.
where people are just going to be like, you know what? Bump my save to the cloud, and I'll go do this on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that while watching. I was like, man, I probably will play this on PC because if it uses like HOTAS and stuff for the flying, that would be awesome.
That'd be really cool.
That would be cool, particularly
but
because this
we'll
this
see.
is delivering like on a degree of that No Man's Sky, or like the thing that people in Destiny have been asking for forever, which is like, let me explore this planet and get some loot, and then just hop my ship and just fly away and land somewhere else, you know.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome. Like I think there's one thing I will say for this, like given that like a lot of times my understanding of a game and my opinion of a game really comes alive and my thoughts really start flowing when it's in my hands. The idea of what they're doing with this is really ambitious. I think the trouble is it's so ambitious, and we've seen Bethesda specifically not exactly nail the landing on way less ambitious things. So the thing that I was saying afterwards, my kind of takeaway is, it's really, I want this game to be amazing. It's hard to believe that Bethesda can raise the
bar and not fumble.
And can expand the scope of what they do simultaneously with raising the level of quality on what they're delivering. Those two things are so difficult to do, just even by themselves, and trying to do them together in one game, you know, is they are setting the bar very high for themselves, and it's probably going to come around, and if it's not at a certain level, it's not going to look good. Particularly because they're part of Xbox now, and there's a lot of like, as good as Halo Infinite is, there's a lot of people that are not happy with how the multiplayer is being handled. I've heard people say that it's a live service without any of the live service, and things like that. Like there's, you know, I want Xbox to succeed. I want Bethesda to succeed, and I think that they are aiming for the stars, and we're gonna see if they can hit them. But
yeah, I do want the game to be good, and I am interested in it because I like a lot of the games Bethesda's made. It just is unfortunate that the last 2 Fallout games they've made have not really struck me, and I really love that franchise. And they still haven't really talked about Elder Scrolls 6 much, but
yeah,
I don't know. But Elder Scrolls
it's not
Online
coming until afterwards, so
is very good. I will say that.
that
Elder Scrolls
game's
Online is
coming
very good
for a long time.
It's probably not, but I want Starfield to be good. I just immediately was kind of like, man, this feels really like, you know, promises that might not be kept, sort of, when they were describing a lot of it, you know. So we'll see. We'll see. But I am happy that it's gonna be on Game Pass, because that also helps a lot.